Well, for more on perspective on the G20 summit and the recent tribunal verdict, I'm being joined by the Deputy Chairman, APC Canada Chapter, Dr. Abiola Oshodi. Good to have you on the news at this time. So first off, how would you react to the president's victory at the presidential court, even as the opposition intends to appeal against the judgment at the Supreme Court?
Thanks so much for having me in this studio again. In terms of my reaction to the president's judicial victory, I would say personally I was expecting that victory and I was excited. It didn't come as a surprise because I'd discussed it with learned people. I've discussed it with my party members. I've discussed it in professional groups. And we looked at the merits of the petition as well as the demerits. And we came to the conclusion that there was no evidence. And a lot of the conclusions that we came up with, interestingly, were reinforced and re-emphasized by the learned judges at the Presidential Election Tribunal. So, for example, the issue of 25% requirement to win presidential election in Nigeria. We were of the opinion that the framers of the Constitution will never have envisaged a situation where they will make Abuja a kingmaker status in Nigeria. It's never done anywhere in the world. So whoever was advising the opposition to pursue that route, I don't think they were doing them a great service. So that was a great disservice. Another issue that we also deliberated upon was, we looked at the entire petition that we didn't see anything that would have on the tide in terms of providing evidence from the polling units, based on EC8 forms, that is recognized by the Constitution. If you say there are irregularities, okay, give us your evidence. What are those irregularities? Not, some imaginary conjectures, that a lot of the lawyers brought to court based on whatever is happening on the social media. The court is supposed to operate on the law, and they are guided by facts, not by sentiments. And having said that, I think the justices have done substantial justice to the issues, that were brought before them. And it's also the responsibility or the right of the petitioners to proceed to Supreme Court. And I don't see anything changing anyway, because the Supreme Court judges are also going to look at the facts and the evidence is presented before them to adjudicate on the matter. And they can't bring in anything new in terms of how the processes work. So I don't know what they're going to do differently other than to give their supporters false hope and probably, delay their acceptance of reality, which is the Ashwaju presidency, by God's grace, over the next 4 years.
So you don't perchance see it going in the way of the opposition from what you're saying?
Well, there's no evidence to upturn the judgment. There's no evidence to upturn the election. What evidence have they presented? Have you seen any EC8 forms, that were signed by INEC officials or the party agents that could have upturned the, these are the kind of evidence that you can bring to the court that can help your case. They don't have such. So how did they know that they won? Was it an election conducted on social media? Or was it because the president's supporters have been quiet and choose to, follow due process? Is it by making noise that you win presidential election? Not at all.
All right, let's quickly move on to another matter now. How confident, rather, are you about the administration's mandate, or administration rather, to deliver on its mandate of renewed hope in this midst of rising economic challenges, security concerns? What's the level of reassurance now to Nigerians?
Yeah, I think it's at this point, though, that we all have to come together, whether we're in government or in opposition or as concerned Nigerians, that we all have a role to play in ensuring, first of all, the progress and advancement of Nigeria and the success of the Bola Ahmed Tinubu's administration. So that's why we have to put a lot of these contentious issues behind us as soon as possible, so that we can come together as one nation to address a lot of the national challenges as well as global challenges that we are facing, and make sure that our country, Nigeria, achieves substantial development over the next 4 years of Asiwaju's presidency. I think that's the way I will look at it, and that's how I would enjoy a lot of Nigerians to start to embrace the reality of Asiwaju's presidency and the realities of the challenges facing Nigeria, both nationally and globally. And I think, thank God, some steps have been taken on the security issues. I was in Nigeria recently, where I had a funeral for my late mom, and a lot of people traveled by road from far and wide, and they returned by road safely. So that would have been unheard of, say, 3-4 months ago. Whatever steps the administration has taken to at least give us some sense of hope in terms of security improvement, I want them to be sustained. I want those measures to be widespread, so that other areas that are still experiencing insecurities could be made more secure. This will attract investment and substantial development in the land.
Right, let's quickly turn our attention to the G20 summit holding in New Delhi, India. We understand the summit's theme is One Earth, One Family, One Future. What practical steps would you suggest can the G20 summit, the leaders now, take to realize this vision?
I think one of the practical steps that they've taken is to admit the African Union into its membership. I think even though the G20 comprises of a mix of advanced nations and emerging economies, and I think that giant step of bringing African Union on board obviously takes the G20 to another level. Probably it will not be G21. I don't know what nomenclature they are going to use. And a lot of their visions fitting into the developmental challenges of African nations like Nigeria. We want to improve our health sector. We want to improve our agriculture. We want to improve our taxes, remittances. We want to improve our climate, or rather our environment, and bringing measures to address climate changes. And these are the areas where the G20 can come in to help facilitate our development. So these are some of the practical steps, that can be that they can bring on board to help emerging and developing nations like Nigeria and a lot of African countries, so that we can have a very, very safe world, that is developing without leaving the other parts of the world behind, which is what Africa has unfortunately suffered for centuries.
And talking about this, the president also mentioned addressing technology, energy, and credit access challenges. Now, how do you think Nigeria can position itself as a major player now in shaping solutions to these issues in the G20?
I think the president has started very, very well. I think he was there 2-3 days before the start of the summit itself, where he met a lot of shakers and movers of India. And India has been a very, very powerful developing country over the last 10-20 years. And those are the kind of countries, that Nigeria should be associating with, learning from, and tapping their wealth of experience. And much more importantly, India was the 4th country in the world to land on the moon recently, a feat that they achieved over the last couple, I think about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and landing on the south side of the moon, which was, and that was the first time any country would do that. So basically, India has developed substantially over the last couple of years. These are the kind of people or the kind of country that you want to associate with, you want to learn from, you want their people to come and invest in Nigeria. And I think the president has done very, very well in tapping into this wealth of experience and knowledge that the G20 and India has gotten to offer Nigeria.
All right, and that's a fine place to leave it. Dr. Abiola Oshodi, we appreciate your insights on the news at this time.